Welcome to this very special edition of Templar Talks. Earlier in October, I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Francois and Liz from Axion Now. If you didn't know, they are one of the absolute bastions of UK competitive Magic. We had a catch up about some of the history, the founding of Axion Now, and lots of interesting bits. In addition, this is part of their 10th anniversary celebration year. So this weekend, on the 23rd and 24th of November, there is a huge event for both Magic the Gathering and Volcana. Huge prizes. Tickets are still available in the description. If you're watching this later, there'll probably be a roundup. But anyway, sit back, enjoy the episode. It was amazing to get an opportunity like this, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed being part of it.
So to kind of kick things all off, obviously it's a very special year this year. It's the 10th anniversary of Axion Now. It might be my ignorance, but what was the date? Do you know the exact date of the 10th? Is there an official kind of date to kick things off? Or?
It was actually February.
Was it? Oh, so it's all...
Yeah, it was actually February 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we've been just talking about it for a little time. You can imagine. And it's just thinking about it and so on, and what's the best thing to do. And now the end of the year is approaching. We really need to do something.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, from my perspective, I'm very glad you didn't decide to do it on the date, because I think that would have been a tough sell to my wife to attend the event. I remember missing out. I think it was a couple of years back. You did an event on our anniversary, and I had to. It seems they always fill there. I know Dan, one of the other local Norfolk players, was getting married on October 13th, I think it was, which was one of the events. So, yeah, some things can't be missed. As important as the Axion events are.
You say that, but we have birthdays, don't we? Were you not there for Francois' birthday?
No, I think I must have missed that
We've had Francois' birthday. We all sang happy birthday. We've had one of our artists, Titus Lunter's birthday. We had a cake. And only last weekend, we had a lovely artist, RK Post.
Yeah.
He flew over from America on his birthday. It was the cake and however many people were in the room, 600 plus
all
people.
Singing happy birthday.
All singing happy birthday, and we had a night cake, and we cut the cake out and handed it out.
Oh, no, and I imagine as well, because Command Fest is so big, that was a heck of a crowd for his birthday, unofficial birthday party, as it were, which is nice. No, I think... I always, it kind of sucks to not be a Commander player, because a lot of the time I see the artists and I'm like, I kind of want to go just for the art, but I haven't been to one of the Command Fest yet, so maybe I'll have to dip my toe into EDH.
You say, well, it's also people come along who love Limited. We have, I would say, what is it, about 50%, Francois?
Well, we had at Command Fest close to 200 players who actually never even came anywhere near a 100-card deck.
Really?
All they played was drafts and sealed.
Wow.
All weekend.
Wow. I know Raoul gives me a lot of grief for it, but I don't really like Limited either. I'm not good enough to play Limited.
What we didn't have was any classic constructed. But Limited... Yeah, I mean, we argued with Wizards that this was, after all, a casual fest as much as a Command Fest.
Yeah.
So, and indeed, we had quite a lot of Commander players
transitioning over to Limited
and trying it, because, of course, it was the new set, Duskmourn, and they said, why don't we try it?
And I think Commander players, from when I used to play Commander a lot, love opening packs as well. So it feels like an excuse that, well, yes, I know it's bad. I try to not these days, because it's you kind of get so much bulk, and you're just gambling forever trying to find those chase rares. But it's what we all love, for sure. But so obviously now we've got these huge Command Fests. There's the mega events. Obviously, there's the 10th anniversary event this year, which is going to be a very special one. When it all started, I think I remember you... forgive me if I've forgotten this, but I think the first ever mega event you organised, I think a lot of what kept the success was the fact that you guaranteed prizing to kick everything off. Do you think that is attributing to why it's been such a mainstay in the community? Because obviously it builds that trust level with the player base.
I think it did have an impact, and especially at the time when, bigger events were not necessarily that successful unless they were Pro Tour qualifiers. A lot of tournament organizers were actually understandably quite reticent to guarantee a prize pool, and they were putting up a prize pool which would be proportional to the number of attendees. And we tried to flip it round and guarantee it. Also because, for a lot of these events, players can travel quite a long distance, and it's not the best of feelings when you travel 2-3 hours, you get there aren't as many players as the organizer would expect, and the organizer turns around and says, sorry guys, I can't really afford to give you, that box. And so I think from the first one, people knew no matter what happened, if they were doing well, their prizes would be guaranteed. Yes, and I did think it had an impact. Well, that was the idea anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it from a player perspective.
Having said that, the very first one we run, Liz will remember that one.
Yes, I do.
We were handing out crates or cases of 6 boxes. We had 47 players. So we had
swallowed hard at the end of that one, and we went Leighton Buzzard, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was Leighton Buzzard because there was a really lovely community at Leighton Buzzard, and that was part of. Francois had 2 shops, Axion Comics and Cards. One was in Chesham and one was in Leighton Buzzard. But I remember one of those players just taking me to one side and said, Liz, I don't think this is going to work for you. And I was going to go, And the first one I talked about, we said, let's give it 3 times. Yeah. Let's just give this 3 times and then we'll... And we gave it 3 times, and the second one was a bit better, and then the third one, and Francois said to me, "See, Liz, I told you."
Yeah, no, I can't even imagine taking that leap of faith. I guess it must be quite. At the time, it must have been quite scary, but it's a testament to believing in it as well. And
I guess we were believing in it, and as Liz was saying, the third one, which we didn't run in Leighton Buzzard again. I think we went to Birmingham probably.
We decided that let's, the lesson from this is let's go somewhere where it's easier for people to get to. I mean, every time you learn something, don't you? You just stand back, okay, let's find somewhere that's a bit more accessible, and so on and so on.
And the third one, we had over 250 players.
Yeah.
And that time we did smile rather than cry.
Yes,
I can imagine. We went, relief.
Yeah, a big sigh of relief for sure. I mean, I guess you've taken that approach of finding the locations a bit this year in the travelling kind of gathering series as well, of seeing where works best. I guess it's been a useful year to kind of assess those. Where works out best for these kind of events? Because I know, obviously I'm biased because it's the closest one, but I noticed the London one. I remember I was, desperately on the waiting list for tickets because I'd never seen. I don't know if you keep record times, but I think that must have sold out very quickly because they just got hoovered up, which is an interesting one to see because I didn't. You don't necessarily expect it.
No, I mean 3. We did run 4 regional events this year, and 3 of them sold out. That was London, Cardiff, and Sheffield. The fourth one was a little less successful. I think we are putting it down to the fact that it was in probably what is the furthest away place for a lot of players. It was on Teesside.
Yes.
And but the other ones, we probably could have fitted another 50 or 100 players in a couple of cases. So, the initiative was successful, although to an extent we wished we had a store or several stores in the UK, like some of the ones I visited in the US years ago, where they can fit over 500 players. But then again, the cost of real estate is a bit different.
I have to
across the pond.
Yeah, the first time I've actually been to Darksphere was the Invitational, and I couldn't believe how big it was for a central London location. I didn't expect that at all, because as you say, the cost of real estate is, especially in London, compared to the US, where there's a lot of space, is extraordinary. So it's amazing there's even stores of that size, I guess.
And you've just pointed to something else which I think we were really pleased with, and that is the amount of people that were being introduced to new stores and were coming out, just like you've said, going, wow, this is brilliant. I'll come back that, and that's all about working with other LGSs, isn't it?
Of course. I can't speak about Stockton, because that, again, for me, that was the one that was a bit too far. But
we did have people travelling from.
I know. One of the Templar guys came.
It's just unbelievable.
Gosh.
Unbelievable. It's fantastic.
But I think it speaks to the, how much people trust in the events, going back to that, reputation. But introducing to new stores, Firestorm and Patriot, I'd never been to those stores, and they were fantastic as well. It was great to see, how differently everyone does things slightly, and I thought especially at Sheffield, actually, the cafe there was really good. Which you don't necessarily expect from an LGS, where you might have a pot noodle or something. Instead, you've got these great cakes, and it was great. And I think Firestorm had a pretty good cafe as well.
Very good cafe as well. All these 4 stores, we selected them not only because of their size, but because we knew they would provide an excellent framework for running our events.
Yes.
And running big events in stores presented us with a few more challenges compared to the classic venues we're normally using. But we think it was absolutely worth it. And from the discussions we had with the store owners, it did work very well for them as well.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden, they couldn't run their normal range of events, but in exchange, they had 250 players every day, a lot of them new to their stores, and these people bought stuff, ate and drank, and did enjoy the store, and said they would come back for, RCQs or everything.
It was it definitely was. I'm sample size of 1, but I would definitely go back to the 3 stores that I visited, and maybe Stockton. I'll chance the extra few hour journey and see what it's like.
It's a lovely part of the world.
It
is a lovely part of the world.
Yeah, I've been to Newcastle, I think, once or twice, and I've always enjoyed my time there. I know Stockton's kind of a little further over, but no. So obviously, we've spoken about kind of the big events and kind of that first mega event. I've read online, obviously, about the comic book store and how you guys met through the juniors club and kind of traveling to wider European events and so on. I'd like to go back all the way to the comic store, and what was the kind of key pivot point of when you decided to go more all in on the Magic? I assume as a comic book store there was some trading card games, but it was obviously a comic focus. What was it that made you make that leap into the Magic? Was it your own personal passions, or was it passions of your children, or what was the kind of key?
I think it was both. I mean, I started playing Magic when having a regular job in the telecommunication industry. Mm-hmm. And it all started when my eldest, who was not even 9 at the time, came back and said, "Oh, I've seen at school, guys playing that game, and it looked cool. Could we try it?" And we did. And, that was in the very early stages of Magic. We're talking the 90s there. And we did try it. We both very much liked it. And my son became very, very good at it. He ended up being a regular at Pro Tours, which is something I've never quite been able to achieve myself. So I guess I lived his competitive success by proxy. And because he was a very young kid at the time, I got to tag along and be his guardian, and to these faraway places where they were holding the Pro Tour. And it was great because we kept on having that relationship even when he became a teenager. And you know what teenagers are like. They're becoming less communicative. And we always kept a very good communication channel because, you know what, we were talking Magic. And, we were discussing goblins and dragons and archetype and metagame, but we were talking, and I certainly was talking more to my son was talking more to me than he was talking to his own mum. And so, later on, I remembered how good it had been for me as a parent and for him as a young kid to have that passion. And that's what gave me the idea to start a junior Magic club. I even started it before I actually acquired the comic shop. The comic shop was owned by somebody else, and I introduced Magic the Gathering and as a card game to the store. I said, give me a free rein, I'll run it for you. And it very quickly grew quite significantly. And then that comic store owner was about to give up because it wasn't working that well. And I said, okay, I'll buy the comic store of you. But I think the challenge was that Magic was always my passion. And I do like comics, but I don't like all the comics. And I felt obliged to read everything that is being published. And actually quite a lot of it is not really my cup of tea. So also the Magic the Gathering activity was going very well, and the comics not so well. So it ended up being an easy decision to actually get rid of
natural progression.
It was a natural transition, and this is when I met with Liz. But Liz can tell you the story herself.
Yeah, I was going to say that this must be, because I know you met through the Junior Magic Club, and I guess that's where you kind of came in and became more involved.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I mean, I was a single mum who just moved into the area.
Oh, okay.
And with 2 kids, looking and, balancing looking for a job, looking after the kids. And my son wandered into this comic shop and came out saying, "Oh, this game looks interesting." He was playing Pokemon before, or at least collecting Pokemon, but not playing the game. And I thought, hang on a minute, this is something which we could do as a family. Yeah. This is something, my daughter, my son, and I can do as a family. I then took Eddie along to, and also it's something which Ed felt was good at.
Yeah.
Do you know what? And everybody needs a passion as to what they're good at. Everybody in life. 100%. You look around, you might be good at music, you might be good at, art, you might be good at sports. But actually, this was something that, that was great. So let's encourage this. Let's encourage this. And when I was going to the club with Ed, it was the one that was convenient for us, was Tuesday evening. And I have to say, we walked in there and there were a lot of adults.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I'm not really comfortable leaving my 7-8-year-old here by himself, and it wouldn't have been fair on.
Yeah.
And so that's fine. So we were going along, and that's great. And then after about 3 or 4 months, Eddie looked at me and he goes, "Mummy, don't take this the wrong way. You're not very good."
Kids are always the most honest and cruel at times, aren't they? Okay.
But what I am quite good at is, I like being with people.
Yes.
I love organising stuff.
Yeah.
So then, chatting with Francois, he had this vision, which I said, well, I could get involved with that. And you're still looking for a job. I could get involved with that. I really like this. So that's what basically happened. And then, as I say, Eddie by this time had set up his own club at school, so all of those guys were coming along, and basically that junior club just morphed. Yeah. They sort of tapped into this. Maybe parents were coming along and seeing me there and getting a bit more confident about leaving their kids, but it morphed, and we had, I don't know how many, we moved from the smaller club you had into a school hall, basically. And then before we knew it, we had made a decision to open a magic centre and try and make a go of it.
Yeah, I think
so there was a little bit of work before that 10-year anniversary. We were building this. But and that's how it works, really. Is there anything else?
And when we started our dedicated Magic the Gathering business, it was quite interesting because even wizards came to us and say, "That's not going to work. You need to be involved with a lot of other games and board games. It is not a viable business proposition."
Or to just do Magic the Gathering.
Yes.
And I think we ended up proving to them that it could work.
Yes.
And it's,
I think our background is maybe, I don't know if it's a bit different to some people, but our background, Francois came from a business background. Mm-hmm. I came from a marketing business background. And so what we did is we sat down and we looked at it like a model. We said, well, hang on a minute, there are different markets here, the junior one, absolutely. We've also got the large events, we've also got the community activity with families. We just sort of mapped it and we worked out exactly how we were going to do it.
Yeah.
And as I say, it seemed to.
I think it is quite unique. I might be completely incorrect, but I don't think there are many. It's something I want to talk about later because it's not just Magic now. There's Walt Disney's come in a little bit and got involved with their latest card game. But I think you guys might be the only I can think of that really just specialises in Magic because it plagues a lot of our local stores fitting things in on the calendar because there's so many games that you have to cater for, which is obviously a great problem to have if you're that business. But it means you have to allocate all your time. So I think that probably does speak to a lot of the success is driving for that one, that one interest basically. And I guess are you still in love with Magic? Because I know, so my background, weirdly, I used to be a drum teacher once upon a time, and music was my entire passion growing up. It was all I loved doing, what I wanted to do, and I hated it because I had to do it for my job. So I ended up falling out of favour. Have you found any of that kind of side of it?
No, we still have a passion for the game. Personally, one thing I regret, as I used to play regularly and quite often, and I don't have time to really do that anymore. But it's a fabulous community, and that in itself is very rewarding. We've just come out of Command Fest, which I can assure you was a very busy weekend.
Yeah.
And it was hard work, but to an extent, it didn't feel like work.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure meeting all these players and chatting to them and making them happy, I guess. So I think that's a huge difference between what we do and the classic 9-to-5 job. Actually, it's far more hours than we put into it, but it doesn't quite feel like work.
Yeah. No, I get that completely. I think it's interesting because I now work in the video game industry, and though I don't play video games anymore because I have to do it in the 9-to-5, it is that satisfaction of I still absolutely love my job, and I love working with these developers and helping realize their things. That there's so much satisfaction in making, bringing joy to others. I think that's the big thing. So it's great to hear that it's still,
I think that's
that
something
passion
that
for you.
Francois and I sort of share, is that feeling of this is basically a lifestyle, and you can call it community, you can call it relationships, you can call it whatever you want, but at the end of the day, we're there saying, we want to enjoy this on a day-to-day, and it is about absolutely building relationships with people, be it the content creators, be it players, be it artists, be it parents, be it, to be honest, our suppliers, be it other local game stores, and that's what I think. That's where we share agreement is. It's about long term.
Yes.
It's about long-term relationships rather than, which is what I was saying to you about, let's give this 3 times, Liz. Let's give this 3 times. It's about, looking at the medium and long term and being pragmatic about things. I think.
For sure. No,
Do you agree?
Yeah.
I guess as well, like when you speak about those kind of short terms that don't necessarily, people that aren't necessarily in it for the long game. I know around. When the pandemic was happening in the UK, there were lots of people flipping stuff in the TCG industry and so on. And kind of, I know you guys around that period, obviously massive events, that was kind of the bread and butter. And then that whole period, I'm not sure if, are you the largest UK e-commerce for Magic the Gathering? It must be close. It's one of the biggest in the UK. It's huge.
Again, it touches on what you were saying earlier. We until a year ago, we only. I don't know. Francois might know, but it's difficult to tell. I suspect we are the largest Magic the Gathering, but there are other people out there who do a lot of things, and what we're trying to do is, our difference, so to speak, is this specialism. So that people know that, do you know what, the chances are, if I want one card, they'll have that card and the other card and the other card and the other card. It's a one-stop shop. Do you know what? I can then book my event at the same time. Do you know what? I can then buy my presents, and I can, it's all. That's what we're trying to create, is that holistic one-stop shop thing.
And how did you find that kind of transition over the pandemic because I think I remember a photo of where you had some play space that had effectively had to turn into a warehouse because of the sudden turn to that online. Everyone was relying on online. Everything was that kind of e-commerce side. How I imagine that was quite a whirlwind of an experience to go through.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially overnight. I mean, we were running a business which was centered on our local game store here in Amersham, and we were running large events. And overnight, it just disappeared in a puff of smoke. We had nothing left. So we very quickly had to reinvent ourselves if we wanted to survive as a business. I have to say that when it all started, we never thought it would last for as long as it did. I think it's been a whole 2 years before we were able to start a big event again. And even though I remember it, the first big event we ran, everybody was wearing masks, and indeed we were asking that everybody wore a mask. So it's been even more than 2 years before it could come back to normality. But at the time, there was only one solution, which is, okay, we've got that stock of cards, let's put it online. And we actually put a call to the community to say, look, we're selling cards online there. And much to our amazement, we got massive support from the Magic community in the UK.
Yeah.
And we then saw people were purchasing the cards from us that allowed us to acquire more cards and build the business.
Yeah.
But without the support of the community, we wouldn't be here today talking about Axion Now.
I mean, it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming. We had, what we did have is we had the advantage of this database of people who have been to our events, and we were able to, exactly as Francois said, send out a message and go on social media and so on, with a call. But it was, I mean, absolutely people buying cards. I was saying, why are people buying cards? It's a pandemic, for crying out loud. But we also had messages of support.
Yes.
And then we also had, we had messages from people going, it was quite emotional. I was talking about long-term relationships.
Yeah.
We had people who was basically contacting us and going, do you know what? I don't need any cards at the moment, but I have so much faith in you. I would like to now buy my F&M for tonight, for this week.
It is.
I would like to buy my Mega Modern for 6 months' time, because we'll be at your Mega Modern in 6 months' time.
It speaks to that.
Absolutely.
That faith as well.
Incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. But, the other thing is, what you haven't said, Francois, is we all look at the e-commerce side, because that was... But we were there going, what are we going to do? And we did try other things. So we tried online events, because people go, we'll just go online. So we tried online events, and that actually didn't work. It was a risk, and it didn't work. We tried again. It was one of those things that we're going to try 3 times.
Yeah.
We're going to try 3 times. Hold our nerve. Didn't work.
Yeah.
And we did try other trading card games.
Yeah.
Again, let's try 1 set. Let's try 2 sets. Let's try 3 sets. Hasn't worked, so we talk about because we weren't specialists.
Yeah.
So,
And it goes back to that community, that player base that really want to support. Obviously, they don't necessarily play those games, so it does feed into that kind of, the passion was really there with Magic. And I think that was probably around the time that Nick joined you guys, right? Because I think he came on board somewhere in that boom, and I'm guessing that was a big help as well, because I know Nick was a big specialist in singles and so on.
Yeah, we're very, very lucky.
Yes.
I mean, we're so lucky that Nick decided to join us because he had huge experience in the e-commerce side. So he was able to give us lots of advice about what to do. He came in first of all just to sort of support us as a consultant, and then he decided to join us permanently. And that was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, going back all the way to the start of things, other people as well as Nick, I read that there were some Actionnaires that were kind of part of that force to kind of get things going. Are all the Actionnaires still involved? Do you think who are the Actionnaires? I guess would be the real question. Are they all part of it still?
They're a group of 4 people who used to be regular local players, and when we took up the challenge of opening that magic dedicated store, they said, "Yeah, we believe in you. We'll support." And essentially, they invested in the company in the shape of a loan. And it amounted to quite a few thousands of pounds in the end. And that was enough for us to get started. And interestingly, none of these players is still active.
Yeah.
But we are certainly hoping to get all 4 of them back into the fore for one last encore, or maybe not the last one, but for our 10th anniversary, because they're very much part and parcel of our history. Like all this community of players who supported us during COVID, without these 4 individuals, there wouldn't be an Axion Now.
And it is amazing to think of the impact that community spirit can have. I know over the COVID period, a very large community came out and supported, but even back then, you do have these passionate individuals that are willing to believe in things, and it is the beauty of Magic, I guess, and hobbies in general. It's not Magic exclusive, of the passion behind people and the good that can be done and the joy that can be made from it. And I have to ask as well, because it was Axion Now Comics as well as Axion Now, was it always Axion Now Comics, or did you change the name when you...
No, we changed the name. The actual name of the local game store was Axion Comics and Cards.
Okay.
And then, it's still Axion, but it's Axion Now.
Where did the idea for the name come from? Was it kind of...
So, Axion Comics and Cards is something that Francois inherited, isn't it?
Okay, apologies,
you inherited that when you took over the comic shop. And then I wasn't involved with Axion Comics and Cards, so we set up a separate company, but we were already doing some work in Magic the Gathering. So again, the marketing side of me goes, we have a brand, let's keep hold of that brand, let's keep it running. But so I basically went online and searched Axion, and Axion was gone, Axion Comics and Cards gone, Axion Cards was gone. So I just came up with Axion Now. Because that's where we were now.
I mean, it's definitely the testament to a good brand, because it's instantly recognisable now, and it's funny, you sometimes search some things and you have to scroll through hundreds of pages, so it's definitely worked out for sure.
But interestingly, I think most players talk about us as Axion.
Yes.
I think the Now has sort of disappeared.
That's
it
true.
is an Axion event. It's not an Axion Now event. So, but it doesn't matter. Axion is really
the heart of it all.
At the heart of it.
And obviously, things with back with the junior club booming way back then, and I can remember to age myself, I'm in my early to mid 30s. So I remember growing up and playing in my Yu-Gi-Oh club at school, and there was a Pokemon club and a Warhammer club. Have you noticed a trend of less, young blood, as it were, coming into Magic the Gathering? Because it feels like, going back to when I taught drums, you talked. I was very lucky in that I think the way I got away with it is I'm a football fan. I am a massive nerd that plays loads of video games and card games, and I'm a huge music fan. So I could usually relate to some kind of a hobby, but I'd definitely say trading cards was less and less common the longer I taught. It feels like it's something that, I don't want to blame Fortnite, but it's obviously not Fortnite, but it does feel like kids are less inclined to go into that trading cards. Is that something you guys have noticed, or is that my weird skew maybe in my small part of the world?
No, I think there is reality that the video medium has indeed taken more and more space, especially over the last decade. But you know what? I think that, deep inside every human being, whether young or older, there are two burning desires. And the first one is, I believe everybody at heart is a collector.
Sure.
Is a collector. And cards are a cool item to collect. And also, I believe there is a burning desire for people to communicate in person and to get together and to have fun together. And that's something which is more difficult to achieve when you talk on the phone or you communicate via Instagram or TikTok so I think those two trends are likely to be with the human race for some time, irrespective of the development of technology.
Yeah.
So
I think that's an interesting one, because I've always put it. So for me, the main reason I love Magic is I work at a screen all day. I refuse to play Magic online because I have no interest whatsoever. It's about the gathering, And I think that's a really interesting point of it is that human nature of wanting to have social interaction, and obviously the collector side of it is, I would also add that I think a lot of people, maybe not the whole of the human race, but are also kind of gamblers at heart and love that rush of opening a booster pack and maybe getting the chase card, as it were. So I think there might be that element as well.
The other thing that we see with everybody, and I could particularly talk about the juniors with this, but with everybody, is because with something like Magic and other things, but I can talk to Magic, is all of a sudden absolutely there's this connection for face-to-face, but all of a sudden you've got something to talk about. So what we see is people, and as I say, I think, we've seen that maybe the intricacies of the game is not something that I get involved with so much, but I like the human contact.
Yeah.
And what I see people who are basically find it sometimes difficult to strike up conversations with people, and all of a sudden you see different people
from completely
at the table
different
from different
worlds.
backgrounds.
Yeah.
So, for example, we run an event, and you'll see a 9 or 10-year-old playing opposite somebody that they would never normally. So we have. So if I can give you an example of when I'm standing there watching, as I say, the 10-year-old playing opposite the person who is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And there we are. We're able to provide entertainment for everybody, all sorts of people. And now I'm seeing that 10-year-old leaning forward and helping that person to shuffle their deck.
Yeah.
And so on. I don't know, what a privilege
Yes.
to being able to bring those people together.
Yeah, it is amazing. As you say, the different backgrounds and worlds that everyone comes from. It's quite, on a more humorous note for the Templar and our group of friends. It's quite funny when if we go out for a drink, if the football's on, 30% of us will be engrossed and the others will want to leave. And we've found the only common ground we have is we always try and have kind of social get-togethers when the Pro Tour's on. So we get the Pro Tour is the big screen event, not the World Cup or whatever it may be, because it's that common ground. We all met playing Magic, and that is our common hobby that we all play together.
Yeah. And it's if someone is rather shy, an introvert person, then what a fantastic time, icebreaker, than to go and say, do you play elves or goblins? And, do you think we should have 4 of these cards in? And conversation are being started very naturally on a ground which is common to everybody. And I say we end up seeing people getting together and become lifelong friends who, to start with, may not have that much in common.
Yeah.
And again, we touched on the junior side, but it's not just the junior side. But what I see is, people's social skills really developing. Really developing, because they get to meet all sorts of people, and all of a sudden they realise, actually, do you know what? I can chat to anybody. Normally, older people would be a bit scary, but they're not actually, because as long as you find something to talk about,
there's something
actually,
in common.
that person over there, they look a bit different to me. But that's irrelevant, because I've got something to talk to them about.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, again, with juniors and younger people, it is, some people might see it as I always joke about how Magic's a children's card game and we shouldn't take it seriously, because I do think people do take it too seriously sometimes. But we're all here to have fun. But, for when you're growing up, I think some of the skills, some level of having... competing in a friendly environment is good. The communication skills, you need to even play the game. I know judges always call it out that communication is key to have a successful game. So it does bring out those social skills. And there's a lot of, back when I was in school, it was always heralded as this is a waste of time. But actually, there is a lot of key, learnings that you can have as a young individual playing Magic. And as you say, the people, not only just the people you meet, but also in your case with your kids, like traveling, like the places you get to go to. I can't believe, having gone to some of the recent regional championships, it's kind of 3-4 times a year now. It's going to these different destinations that you wouldn't necessarily visit. And granted, we probably spend too much time inside a convention hall than we should, but at least you've made the intent to leave your little pond and go out into the ocean a little more. And speaking of which, in terms of going out into the ocean, to go away from Magic, obviously in the last year you guys have been kind of taking on that Walt Disney IP with Lorcana. I think is it Ravensburger that do? Yeah.
It is.
So what was the big draw for Lorcana? Because obviously I know I'm not going to talk about Flesh and Blood and Yu-Gi-Oh! Because maybe they're a little too niche, but there's obviously other hugely successful games like Pokemon that have a player base. What was it that kind of gave you guys the belief in Lorcana specifically to kind of dip your toe in? Or was it a trial of, that kind of free event policy of see if it kind of works and go from there?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
I would say there's different things. I mean, the first one is that I know it uses a different vocabulary, but Lorcana and Magic are very, very similar.
Yeah.
And I would say evidence has shown time and again that the top Magic players, whenever they try their luck at Lorcana, they tend to do very, very well indeed. But I think the other aspect is Lorcana is quite unique in the world of trading card games, with maybe the exception of Pokemon, but I think it is more challenging than Pokemon as a card game. But it's got this ability and this potential to actually attract demographics that are very similar to the world's population. It is male, female, kids, and lots of families are playing the game. And that is something which, as much as we love Magic, at the end of the day, we have been running these competitive Magic events for, over a decade now. And it's 95%, probably even more, men between 25 and 40-year-old. We organized our first Lorcana Fest a few months ago in Milton Keynes, and it was extremely diversified. So it's this potential to reach out to a population which had virtually been left untouched by the other card games that appealed to us, I think, as well. So, a combination of the two. And I have to say, who doesn't like or hasn't experienced Disney in terms of an IP? It's probably the biggest IP in the world. So,
Just to add to that, so I was saying earlier about how we stood back and we looked at Magic and we said, actually, it's not just one thing. Look at the different Magic marketing speak target markets. Look at the different types of people, types of life stages. We can actually sort of look, and you see that with Magic. You see that we have casual and competitive, and we have identified a group of people which are called casual competitive. There's that crossover. And then we talk about people who are commander players and modern players. And so there are lots of different markets within that one market, e-commerce, events, and so on. And because we think that Lorcana actually touches the bits on either side in a way. So actually what we see is it's absolutely still the same business, and there is this continuum, potentially, we don't know, it's early days. It's really, really early days. But we see there's a continuum here going on. So what we see is whole families coming on board. As I say, the younger girls all of a sudden getting involved, as opposed to, actually, I'm going to go and take her out because she doesn't want to stay here. Yeah. So we absolutely see this as a continuum. People moving in and out the different games. So it's absolutely, as opposed to sort of black and white. There's one game, there's another. This is an absolute continuum.
Yeah, and I guess as well, it's not your problem as an organizer to make these games appeal to wide demographics. That's up to WotC, Hasbro, Ravensburger, Konami, whoever it is. That's if they want to, appeal to whoever it may be that is a target market. And you guys just kind of have to go with the wave of where those people are. And as you say, I always joke that Lorcana's Magic Light because it is Magic Light. There's a lot more to it than Pokemon, but it's still not got the complexity of Magic, and it's nowhere near Yu-Gi-Oh! or Flesh and Blood levels of shenanigans that can happen. I remember for my sins before I played Magic, I only started playing Magic in 2019, and before that I'd played Yu-Gi-Oh! As a child. I tried to introduce Yu-Gi-Oh to my wife, and she read one card and saw the 4 paragraphs on that card and just said no thank you and gave it back to me. Whereas Magic and Lorcana, we play, you know. So I think definitely the accessibility side of it is huge for Lorcana specifically.
It is also much simpler for younger kids to get into it, because what we've seen, I mean, we've spent a lot of time developing our younger population player base. And we actually were starting teaching them Magic from the age of 7. But a lot of kids in that age bracket, 7 or 8, were struggling mostly with one thing, is the concept of your opponent being able to interfere with your turn. Yeah. And Lorcana doesn't have that. Yeah. It doesn't mean that it is a simple game. In fact, it can be quite complex at the top level, but it's very accessible. Yeah. And a 6-year-old will be able to take on Lorcana and be a reasonably competent player. Yeah.
No, and you know, it is amazing that these, you know, as young as 6 have that kind of avenue to get into a trading card game. Unfortunately, I think we've run out of time because we're also, you know, speaking of all the Axion events, we are at one of your kind of famed Amersham RCQ kind of. It isn't a Modern for Goodies, but it's an RCQ kind of comp level event. So to kind of finish things off, obviously, there's a lot to still look forward to this year. And there's going to be the 10th anniversary, which I think is towards the end of November, I believe.
It is on the 23rd and 24th of November. It's going to be our biggest event of the year. Yeah. And it's very close to our hearts because the last 10 years have been very exciting. They have had their fair number of challenges, and we're still standing.
Yes.
And we have met along the way such a large number of people we have become very fond of, and we are hoping we'll be able to gather as many as possible for what is likely to be a cracking event, even if I say so myself. It's going to be very exciting.
No, that is amazing, and I don't think I'm going to be uploading this until quite close to the event. So, you know, for anyone listening or watching, do check if there's tickets. There may not be at the point of which this goes up, but you know, it is. I'm very excited for it. I know a lot of the players I've spoken to are, and it's good. You know, it's amazing that it's been 10 years, and hopefully it'll be 10 more happy, amazing years of growing more and more. And you know, maybe one day we can even convince, be it Fanfinity or Legacy, to host a regional championship in the UK off the back of kind of these events going, or maybe Lorcana, who knows? But thank you guys so much for taking the time. It really is appreciated. And I know how insanely busy you both are. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
And, it's been amazing.
It's a pleasure. And thank you and the whole group for your continuous support over the years.
No, we love it, and we won't be going anywhere.
Good.
But thank you guys so much.